So stable coins are very efficient for anyone who's kind of worked with a digitally native business or use stable coins. They can be far more effective than, say, wire transfers.
Yeah, I know you've been long Bitcoin since probably our first conversation, if not sooner. As you said, April 2020. The way I've started to think about crypto or digital currencies are like into three buckets. You've got your maybe traditional cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and now thousands of others, but everybody knows Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you've got your central bank issued digital currencies, which are probably have arrived in some countries. And then maybe if there's a third box, you could call it your Silicon Valley based cryptocurrencies. And the one that we all know about is Libra. And this is like the tech giants. When are they going to start creating, with aggression, their own currencies? Now, I'm really curious about that third box. And I don't know if you've got any thoughts on it, but you look at a company like Amazon, right? It's obviously in the conversation in the boardrooms. There's obviously plans and whatnot. And with the right execution, we all could live 100% of our lives inside of the Amazon ecosystem, right? All the food, supplies, goods, services we need could be found right there and purchased with the Amazon currency. Do you see anything interesting over there, Lyn, or does anything catch your attention or have any thoughts?
To a certain extent. And so, I think it is important to think about central bank digital currencies and then there's private versions.
Yeah. Okay.
And so one thing to separate is when we look at something like China, they've been researching this topic since like 2014, and they've been testing it for a few years now. And so they're almost at the deployment stage for their central bank digital currency. And to some extent, that's because just like in business, if you're the incumbent, you have less incentive to disrupt yourself. Right, it's the hungry newcomer that wants to do something different. So China wants to be able to buy commodities in their own currency. They want to surveil their citizens as much as they can. Unfortunately, they want to go around the SWIFT system. They have a bunch of incentives that really, when they saw the technology, they're like, wait a second, we can really use this. And so they were quick on that. And so they're ahead of the curve there. The Federal Reserve is the king of the current system. And so they've been not aggressive at looking into central bank digital currencies like some of those other ones have. And so if they want to move forward now, I think in the West probably we're looking at least for a period of time more reliant on those private stablecoin type of entities, because the Federal Reserve would take probably years to deploy something. If they start from scratch. Right. And so, Facebook's Libra was an early attempt. They wanted to make essentially a Bancor or like an SDR, like a basket of major currencies, but issued by this private entity. And that regulators didn't really like that. So that kind of got halted. And then they resurrected that as DM, which is more like separate stable coins. They'd have a dollar stable coin, then they might separately have a euro stable coin. And so they, from their perspective, they want to have their own wallet. They want to have this ecosystem, and basically they want to kind of displace the banking system to some extent. So stable coins are very efficient for anyone who's kind of worked with a digitally native business or use stable coins. They can be far more effective than, say, wire transfers. You can send a stable coin payment internationally at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, and it settles in a few minutes. And no, you didn't have to ask permission. Now, regulators still like stablecoins more than something like Bitcoin, as long as they have control of it, because, for example, stablecoin issuer can blacklist certain addresses. And so it's not a fully decentralized system like, say, Bitcoin is, where it's unstoppable pretty much. And so, but for the most part, if you were kind of, not on some blacklist, you're using this fairly permissionless, decentralized thing, and you're going around banking hours, and you can go international. And so obviously regulators are trying to get a handle on that and figure out what that means and what kind of systemic issues it can have. And banks are, I think, somewhat worried about that sort of thing as well. But those are the advantages of that stablecoin technology. And so I think in the West, probably going to see, those projects launch, but with heavy regulation. So they want to make sure that they're holding pristine collateral. None of they're not exactly thrilled with the offshore ones that we don't know what they hold for sure or how much they hold. They want to have these entities that are holding it. If the stable coin's backed by dollars, they want it to be backed by dollars and T-bills that are audited well, right? So I think that's the type of thing we're going to see. So we're seeing UDS DC, for example, Circle. That's kind of the more regulated stablecoin, you could say, the a little bit more above board than something like Tether. Gemini has also had a very regulated stablecoin. They've kind of stuck to the pristine collateral approach. Facebook clearly wants to orientate themselves around that direction as well. The difference being that so far, the primary usage for stablecoins has been speculating in crypto markets, right? So they bring the stablecoins to an offshore exchange. They use it as a unit of account to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and these other tokens. Whereas Facebook wants to make that more of like a peer-to-peer payment system. They want to use stablecoins more for that purpose. Now, there are businesses that that are kind of early that have been using stable coins, and it's like if you talk to them once they start doing that, they never want to go back, right? Because no one wants to send like a 3-day wire transfer, then you lose track of it. You're trying to argue with your bank, and you get told no. They just want to be able to send that payment 2 a.m. on a Sunday if they want to, and so that's spreading, but it hasn't really gotten too far into consumer finance yet, and so that's where Facebook wants to go after. And if you look at their new white paper, their second version, their DM, not the Libra but the DM, they reference central bank digital currencies. They kind of view themselves as potentially working with central bank digital currencies as an overlay, as an extension. So, for example, their reserves could be central bank digital currencies. They could be Fed coins, for example, and that this would be like a tech layer over that has more features than the Fed could do on their own. Right. And so that's kind of a big question going forward, is how fast is this ecosystem going to develop and what direction it's going to take. But I think that's kind of one way to think about it, and then we monitor it and see if we see a change in direction.